I get you going. Also, if a corpse is outside and its hair is inside, the house becomes tummy. The bone has on it an outside piece of flesh. If the part of the bone was brought in under the roof of the house, the contents of the house become tummy. There are two bones. Each of one has on it a half an olive size of flesh. If one part of each bone was brought under the roof of a house, the contents of the house becomes tummy. If they were attached by man, the house remains tahor because whatever is attached by man is not considered an inherent attachment. What qualifies as death blood? An eighth of a log of blood flowed out of a dying person while he was still alive, and an eighth flowed out after he died. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Ishmael says a quarter log of blood that flowed out while the person was alive and a quarter log that flowed out after he was dead were combined, and from this mixture a quarter log was taken. Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, says both of these are like water. What is death blood? When there is a hanged person whose blood was flowing out and a quarter log of blood was found beneath him, the blood is tummy. But if a corpse blood was dripping and a quarter log of blood was found underneath it, the blood is tahor. Rabbi Yehuda says not so, rather that which flows out is tahor and that which drips is tummy. An olive-sized piece of corpse in a room must have an opening of 1 handbreadth, and a whole corpse must have an opening of 4 handbreadths to prevent tumor from spreading to the other openings. But to allow tumor to spread, 1 square handbreadth suffices. It is larger than the volume of an olive. If it is larger than the volume of an olive, it is treated as a whole corpse. And Rabbi Yehuda says a special spinal column and a skull are treated like a whole corpse. Okay.
Okay. All right. So Mishna Zayin talks about tefach al rum tefach meruba. This is our basic building block of an ohel. Okay, that's your smallest area of an ohel is something that is a tefach wide, a tefach square, and a tefach high. In other words, a cubic tefach.
Right.
Okay, with a cubic tefach with a roof over it. That's called an ohel. Okay, mevias atuma. So that works as an ohel, both lekula and lechumra. So under the ohel, if there's tumah underneath the ohel, it spreads the tumah all the way under the ohel. Okay, and furthermore, it also intercedes to block tumah. Okay, tzad how so? Biv shehu kamur tachas habai. So imagine that you've got a house with a wooden floor. Okay, now in the days before plumbing, all right, if you had a, let's say you were, I've never seen a house like this, but imagine that now you want to have someone in the kitchen to pour out wastewater.
Right.
You know, okay. So what you've got is a hole in the ground, and it runs underneath your floorboards. Okay, let's say you're a fancy guy and you've got like wooden slats on the bottom of your house instead of just compacted earth. Okay, so now, and you've got a little channel that runs underneath your house and to the outside, so you can just pour your water in there and it flows underneath the floorboards to get to the outside of the house. Okay, so now we're talking about that little channel there. Okay, and that channel has the required dimensions. It's at least an amma high between the bottom and the top, and an amma square, in terms of the width. Okay, so we've got the requirements for a separate ohel. That channel itself is a separate ohel. Another important thing is that the exit of the channel to the outside, the hole that leads to the outside, is more than a square tefach. Okay. Tumat besocho. Now, what happens is we discover that there is a piece of a kazayas min hameis. Just a kazayas piece of a dead body is inside that channel. Now, where does the tumah go? Habayis tahor. See, because it's a tent, it screens everything that's inside the channel. Of course, is tameh, but right. the roof of the channel is the roof of the channel blocks the tumah from entering the house. Okay, habayis tahor. And that's because, of course, the tumah is going to want to go out through the exit of the channel. Tumah babayis. What happens if there's tumah inside the house? Mash besocha tahor. So now the the fact that this channel is a separate ohel screens it from any tumah that's in the house. Why? And this is here. We're going to see this statement a number of times during in our Masechta. The nature of tumah is to want to go outside, not to go back inside. It wants to get out. Okay, tumah wants to get out. It's not going to take this crazy route that it's going to take it out through the channel. It's just going to go out simply through one of the doors of the house. Okay. Now, what happens if the channel is an ohel in itself, but the exit to the outside is less than a tefach? Okay, less than a square tefach. Okay, now it's still an ohel, but the problem is that the tumah can't get out of it directly to the air. So if you have a kazayis min hameis inside the channel, habayis tameh. Now the tumah's got nowhere to get out, and the only way it's going to get out is through the house. And once it's going out through the house, then the whole house becomes tameh. Okay. Tumah b'bayis. However, if the tumah is in the house, tahor, then the channel is still tahor because the channel is still a separate ohel, and the tumah wants to go out. Tumah wants to go out. Now, what happens if this channel is small? It doesn't have the requisite size to call it an ohel in its own right. Okay. Tumah betocho. If there's tumah inside it, habayis tameh, then the fact that it's no longer an ohel means that it's considered part of the house, and therefore the house also becomes tameh. Tumah b'bayis, and conversely, if tumah is inside somewhere else inside the house, tameh, anything that's inside the channel is also tameh, because it's not a separate ohel; it's part of the house. Okay, echad chor shecharuhu mayim or shiratzim or sheachalatu malachas. Okay, and it doesn't matter how this channel was formed. By the way, when it comes to ohalos, it doesn't matter who made it, how it was made. Was it made by natural erosion? Was it dug by a mouse? Was it made by human hands? Makes no difference. But marbech shel avanim also, if it marbech shel avanim, something of stones, marbech like a row of stones, or v'chein savar shel koros, or a pile of beams. It doesn't. So the halacha, as the Tanakama says it, is that it doesn't matter how it was formed. Ohel is an ohel. Rabbi Yehuda Omer kol ohel she'enu asoi b'yadei adam enu ohel. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He says an ohel has to be made by human hands. A natural ohel that was formed by erosion or by animals is not considered an ohel. However, he does agree about clefts in rocks and because those are things that like caves are used by, even natural caves are used by people to live in. So there he would say, yeah, this is still an ohel. However, halacha does not follow Rabbi Yehuda, and any kind of ohel is an ohel, no matter how it was made. Okay. All right. Now we start getting into the fun stuff, the case studies of where does the tumah go? Okay, because we've learned our basic building blocks now. Tumah wants to go out, and an ohel is something that's a tefach cubed, okay, with a roof. Migdal shehu omed ba'avir. Okay, so this migdal is basically a big cupboard, and it must be a big cupboard. It's got to be one of the things that we learned in Kalim is not susceptible to tumah itself. So it's not considered a kli; it's considered an ohel. Okay. Tumah besocho. So now it's got let's say a kazayis min hameis inside this cabinet. Kelim shebe'ovyo tahorim. Now this, okay, so now just a little bit more of a picture of this cabinet. It's got latticed walls, so it's got little little components inside, little compartments inside the walls. So now these things inside the walls are tahor. Why? Because the tumah wants to go out. It doesn't want to start going through the walls and whatever. It just wants to get out, and anything else is left unscathed. Tumah be'ovyo. What happens if the tumah is inside the walls? Kelim shebesocha tahorim, and also the things that are inside it are tahor, because again, the tumah wants to go out. It's not going to take a detour through the inside to get out.
Right.
Rabbi Yossi Omer mechze lemechze. Rabbi Yossi says actually the walls should be assessed half and half. The inner half, it belongs to the inside, and the outer half belongs to the outside. Excuse me, I was just looking to see if there was a psak in there. I don't see anyone. Haya omed besoch habayis. Now, what if the cabinet is inside the house? Tuma besocha. What happens if there's tuma inside the cabinet? Habayis tame. The whole house becomes tame, even if the door is closed. Right? Why? Because tuma wants to get out, and the only way it's going to get out is it's going to go out through the house. Okay, which means that since it's already going to have to come out through the house, then it's the house automatically becomes tame. Tuma babayis. What happens if the tuma is inside the house? Mashe besocha tahor. Then whatever's in the cabinet is protected by the door of the cabinet. Okay. Shedercha tuma latzeis ve'en darka leikanes. Again, tuma wants out. Kelim shebeinu lebein haaretz. Now, what happens if there is stuff underneath this cabinet? So there's tuma in the house. There's a cabinet with a little bit of airspace underneath it. Okay, and or shebeinu lebein hakorsel, or between it and the wall. There's something stuck between it and the wall. Shebeinu lebein hakoros, or between it and the ceiling. Im yesh sham posech tefach. If that gap between it and the walls, the ceiling, or the floor is itself as big as a tefach, then that's a significant gap, and it's not part of the ohel of the cupboard. Therefore, it's part of the space of the house, and it becomes tameh. However, if it's squeezed tight, then it's part of the ohel of the cupboard, and therefore the tumah does not affect it, and therefore it's tower. Tumah sham habayis tameh. And what happens if the tumah is inside the gap between the cupboard and the wall? Then the house is tameh. Okay, it doesn't affect the cupboard, because the cupboard itself is still closed.
Right.
Okay. Tevas hamigdal. Okay, now this is a drawer basically inside the cabinet. Yesh posech tefach. The height of the drawer is at least a tefach. But it's closed to the point where there's no posech tefach on the exit. Okay. Tuma besocha. If the tuma is inside the drawer, the bayis is tameh. Okay, because it's going to have to come out. Tuma babayis. But if tuma is in the house, mashe besocha tahor, then the drawer is protected from the tuma. Shedercha tuma latzeis ve'en darka likanes. Again, we reiterate the principle: tuma wants out. Rabbi Yossi Metaher, he says, even if the tumah is in the drawer, I can tell you that the house is going to be tahor. Why? Because you could open up the drawer just a fraction less than a tefach, and get into it and take a knife and cut the tumah, cut that kazais in half, and take out one half, and then come back and take out the other half, because each half by itself will not be matame, and therefore the house can be protected. It seems like Rabbi Yossi is disputing not just this Mishnah but the previous Mishnah, because there's no reason why you shouldn't say the same thing about the cupboard itself, except that maybe practically it's a little easier to say with a drawer. It's a smaller space that you can get into without opening a full tefach, where a cupboard may not be so easy to get into like that. But in principle, there Rabbi Yossi doesn't hold that the tumah is inevitably going to go out through the house, and therefore he says the house is tahor. Okay, ad kan.
Okay. We have Lamed Beis. A looking glass is tahor, but a glass dish that was made into a looking glass is tameh. But if the dish was originally made to serve as a looking glass, it is tahor. Regarding a spoon that one places on the table, if it contains any minute amount, it is tameh. But if not, Rabbi Kiva rules it tameh. But Rokanan Ben Nuri says tahor. A cup, the majority of whose circumference chipped away is tahor, and if it became chipped with the 3 chips around the majority of the circumference, it is tahor. Rabbi Shimon says if the cup leaks a majority of water, it's tahor. If the cup developed a hole and one repaired it with whether with tin or with pitch, it is tahu. Rabbi Yossi says if he plugs it with tin, it is tamei, but with pitch, it's tahu. A small glass bottle whose neck was broken off is tamei, but a large bottle whose neck was broken off is tahu. And the bottle for balsam oil whose neck is broken off is tahu. Rather, it will scratch one's hand, and large glass jars whose mouths broke off are tamei because one goes inside for pickled things, and a grinding funnel made of glass is tahu. Rabbi Yossi says, fortunate are you, Caleb, for you have entered into Tumah, but you have exited into Har. Okay.
And back to the beginning of Ohalos tomorrow. Okay, Chaf base.
Okay. Bagpipe is impervious to Midrash Tumah regarding a trough of Pizanos. Pei Shammai says it's susceptible to Midrash Tumah, but Pei Hillel says it's only susceptible to becoming Shammai with Kork's Tumah. Regarding a trough with a capacity of between 2 lives and 9 cups that crack, it's susceptible to becoming Tumah with Midrash Tumah, and if one left it in the rain and it swelled, it's susceptible to becoming Tumah with Kork's Tumah. If he then placed it in the east wind and it developed a crack, it's susceptible to Midrash Tumah, and there's a stringency that applies to the remnant of wooden utensils over the original utensil, and a stringency that applies to the remnant of wicker utensils over the original utensil that is originally that are not susceptible to Tumah, unless their rims are secure. But if after their rims are secured, even though their rims fell away, if only the smallest amount of the rims remained, they're Tumah. Regarding a stick that was one made into a handle for an axe, it was considered connected with regard to Tumah while in use. Regarding a daista, it is considered connected with regard to Tumah while in use. If one set in a post, it is Tumah, but if not considered connected to the post, but it is not considered connected to the post. And if one made in a daista, they only pay only that part which it needs is Tumah. Regarding a chair that one set into a post, it is Tumah, but if not considered connected to it, if one made a chair, only its place is Tumah. If you attach it to the beam of an olive press, it is Tumah, but not considered connected to it. If one made a chair at the top of the beam, it is a tahor because people said to him, stand up, and so that is the way we do our work. Okay.
One more.
Regarding a large trough that was too damaged, to hold pomegranates and one prepared to sit on it, but Bakiba was a Tumah, but this rule sages rule a Talmud until one cuts it. If he made it into a manger, even if he set it into a wall, it is Tumah. Okay. We are on to the Ila test. The Chometz, the Levana, the Kataris, and the Minka of Katan, the Minka of the ancient Kohen, anointed Kohen, and the libation Minkas are subject to Ila from when they are consecrated. Once they're consecrated in a sacred service vessel, they become prepared to be disqualified through contact with the Tel Yom, through contact with the Nuachus of the Forum, or through remaining past their time. One is liable on the end, counts for Nosa or for Tameh. A piggle does not apply to them. General rule is any sacrificial item that has permitters, one is not liable on its account for piggle, Nosa, or Tameh until its permitters have been offered. Any sacrificial item that does not have permitters, as soon as it is consecrated in a sacred service vessel, one is liable on an account for Nosa or for Tameh, but not piggle does not apply to it. The offspring of a katos, the tumor of a katos, and the katos' owners have died or left to die. Regarding the katos whose year has passed and that 1 year was lost and then found blemished, if the owners have atoned for the sin, it is left to die and it does not make a tumor. And it is forbidden for that to benefit, but is not subject to Ma'ila. But if before the owners have atoned for their sin, if it left to graze until it develops a blemish and is then sold, and the owner repurchases another katos and it proceeds, and the original katos makes a tumor and is subject to Ma'ila. Regarding one who sets aside money for his zeros offerings, and money is not permitted to benefit, nor is it subject to Me'ilah, since all the money is fit to be bought as a shlamit. If the Nazir died and the money was specified, it falls upon the fund for voluntary offerings. If the money was specified, the money designated for the katos should go to the Dead Sea. If that money is not permitted for benefits, but is not subject to Me'ilah, with that money designated for the Olah, they should bring an Olah. And with that money designated for the Shalom, they should bring a Shalom. And the Shalom can be eaten in 1 day and does not require the accompanying bread. Okay, we have Idios Tet. He used to say, a father merits a son with beauty and with physical strength, with material wealth, and with wisdom and Torah, and with years. And regarding the number of generations that are before him, if that, but that is the set time, the time set by him as it is stated. He, Rabbi Kiva, would say there are 5 things that are 12 months duration. The judgment of the generation of the flood was administered over a period of 12 months. The judgment of Yob was over 12 months. The judgment of the Egyptian was over 12 months. The judgment of Gog and the nation, Magog in the future, the common will occur over a period of 12 months. And the judgment of the evildoers, the Gehenna, will endure for 12 months, and it is stated, and it will be from a month to this month. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori says the judgment of evildoers take place from Pesach to Shavuos, as is stated, from a Sabbath to its Sabbath. And if any other parts of that conveyed tumah through Ohel were divided, and one brought the pieces to a house, Rabbi Doto ben Hokinus rules that the person remains tahor, and the sages rule that the one becomes tameh. How so?
Yeah, we just learned this. Yeah.
And how so? If one simultaneously touches 2 half-ounce pieces of the veil or carries them, or in the case of a corpse, if one touches an outside piece when he forms a roof over an outside piece, if one touches a hollow side piece while another half-olive side piece forms a roof over him, or he forms a roof over 2 half-olive side pieces, or he forms a roof over 1 half-olive side piece while another half-olive side forms a roof over him. In each of these cases, Reb Dosa Harkinas says the person remains tar, and the concomitant rule that he becomes tameh. But if one touches a half-sized piece of corpse while something forms a roof over him and over another half-sized olive piece, or if one forms a roof over a half-ounce solid piece while something forms a roof over him and over another half-ounce piece, he remains tahor. Rameya says even in this case, Reb Dosa that the person remains tahor and the concomitant room that becomes tameh. In a case where a person is subject to tumah from two undersized pieces of a corpse, the sages remain that he becomes tameh, while except for a combination of touch and carrying or carrying a roof. This is the rule. According to the sages, any 2 associations in the same category render the person tameh, whereas from 2 different categories render him tahor. Right. Okay.
Okay.
One more? No.
No. That's it.
Okay. And we are on to Megillah.
Megillah Gimel base.
They may not sell they might sell a synagogue except under the condition that if they wish, they may repurchase it. And the opinion is of mayor. The sages say, however, that they may sell it permanently for any purpose except for the following 4 uses: a bathhouse, tannery, or mikvah, or waterhouse closet. Rabbi Yehuda says they may sell it as a courtyard, and the purchaser may do as he pleases. Rabbi Yehuda said further, and in a synagogue that has been destroyed, one may not offer eulogies therein, twist ropes therein, spread nets therein, spread produce on its roof, or use it as a torch cloth. For the Torah states, and he shall make desolate your sanctuaries. This applies they are holy even when they're desolate. If grass grew in the ruins, one may not touch it because of grief. On the first day of Adar, which falls on Sabbath, we read the portion of Shalom. On this falls on a weekday, we advance the reading of Shalom to the Sabbath before and interrupt the reading of the 4 portions on the next Sabbath. On the Sabbath, we read the portion of Zachor. Remember what Malach did. On the 3rd Sabbath, we read the portion of Pa'aduma, the red cow. On the 4th Sabbath, we read the portion of Hachodesh Hazeh, Lechem, the Mishmal shall be to you. And on the 5th Sabbath, we resume the reading of the regular order. In all the following occasions.
Hold on. We've gone. Sorry, we went too far there. I beg your pardon. I lost track. We just needed to do up to Daled. Okay.
Tomorrow is Purim Katan.
Tomorrow is Purim Katan. That's right. Oh, no Tachlon.
We have Kalayim. Kalayim, wheat and darnel are not kalayim with one another, barley and oats, spelt and rye, beans and chickpeas, bitter peas and velching, while white beans and kidney beans are not kalayim with one another. Cucumber and cucumber melon are not kalayim with one another. Rabbi Yehuda says kalayim, garden lettuce, wild lettuce, endives and wild endives, leek and wild leek, coriander and wild coriander, mustard and Egyptian mustard, or Egyptian gourd and bitter apple, or Egyptian beans and carob are not kalayim with one another. And turnip and radish, cabbage and cauliflower, beet and oric are not kalayim with one another. Rabbi Kiva added garlic and wild garlic, onion and wild onion, lupin and wild lupin are not kalayim with one another. Okay.
Okay, that's it. We're done.
See you tomorrow.
All day.
See you. Bye.